This podcast replay is brought to you by Moodius Dental. They offer same-day dentistry with the latest CEREC technology. Take advantage of your insurance benefits for 2019 before the year runs out and they're all gone. Call 305-821-0231 or moodiusdental.com.
We have Mr. Perkins on line one, sir.
All right, let's do it. Chris Perkins, baby, from The Athletic. You can follow him on Twitter at Chris Perk. He was at the game yesterday as the Dolphins clipped the Eagles, baby, 37-31. That was the exact prediction that Chris Perkins had at The Athletic, didn't you, Chris? 37-31 Dolphins.
Yeah. Devontae, Gasicki, I had all that. Oh, you know me. I'm all over this.
You're all
over this. Yeah.
That was.
Hey,
go ahead.
No. It was a lot of fun watching that, and you know, I wrote today in The Athletic about the Dolphins winning their fans back, and that was something that Daniel Kilgore talked about, and you know, everybody heard after that, the introductions, the Dolphins were booed as they came out onto their own home field. First play from scrimmage, Ryan Fitzpatrick throws that interception, and the place just erupts. And, you know, Raekwon McMillan, I talked to him after the game, and he said, yeah, we noticed that. He said, we noticed that. And really, what I wrote about was the Dolphins getting their own fans back with this third win that you know, as I'm walking down the ramp to the locker room, I'm hearing Dolphins fans celebrating and taunting Eagles fans. And Big O, I never once, as opposed to that Jets victory, I never once heard the name Tua or Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow uttered by the fans. You know, I think there's becoming a bit of a belief that, hey, even if we don't get a top quarterback this year, this thing might be okay because these guys can coach and they can at least identify and develop some talent. So once we really do get our players here after the draft, after free agency, after a few years, this thing might be okay. And I kind of sense that was kind of one of the big messages, one of the big takeaways from the Dolphins getting that third victory.
Oh, so basically they're listening to my show and what I've been saying for weeks now. Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And I do think the tide is turning a little bit. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of what I've been saying the entire time, that this is the way to do it, and this is the right way. This is a responsible thing to do, whether, you know, and Steve Young wants to get all stupid and say that, players, you know, health is at risk and all that garbage. No, sorry. Yeah. I'm just not for that. And you know, Perk, he'll never get it because obviously you got to be winning, but the job that Flores and his staff have done is just absolutely outstanding, dude. Outstanding, considering they have started with absolutely nothing, and we see what Manny Diaz is. You know, he talks about creating culture and all that crap. That man there in Davie, he's creating the culture in his first year. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, no, it's very impressive stuff by Flo, and you know, I've been writing about Flo for a few weeks now, quite honestly, about how it looks like this guy can really coach. You know, it might have been after the game in Buffalo that I started writing that, but you know, I wrote about last week that as far as the Dolphins and Cleveland rebuild, the Dolphins don't have the talent that Cleveland has, but it appears that they've got a better head coach. And, you know, all these people from Cleveland start responding to the story. Oh, congratulations. You think you've got a coach who's better than some guy who doesn't deserve to be a head coach, which they were talking about Kitchens. But, you know, it was meant kind of derisively. And I will say this. The jury is still out on Flo, as I'm sure you'll admit.
Oh, yeah.
I thought Adam Gase was the right man after the first year. It turned out that he wasn't. Flo isn't even through his first year. However, the difference is, I think we all see, right? When you have the least talented team, the lowest penalized team, and a team that has probably outpaced everybody else in the league as far as expectations. I'm including Baltimore. I'm including San Francisco. I'm not sure that anybody thought these Dolphins were going to win 3 games, especially after you start off 59-10, 43-0. You get injuries. Xavier Howard is out. Bobby McCain is out. trade Minka Fitzpatrick. We all know what they've been through. So, Mo has impressed me more than any other Dolphins first-year coach, starting with Tony Serrano and going through Philbin and Adam Gase. I do think that this guy has something different than those others.
Now, and listen, let me tell you something. And I'm with you all the way. I need one more year to see Flo, but because I fell for it too. I was drinking the Kool-Aid also after Gase and his first year, but things kind of went their way in a lot of things. Here, I'm watching him. In other words, I'm watching in Coral Gables, Manny Diaz lose with more than Duke, more than FIU, more than Georgia Tech, and you're losing those games. The difference is I'm watching this guy win with less. And that's the difference for me. That now, and when you're about the same kind of team as other teams like Gase had, you got a shot every week. This guy goes in and he's got a butter knife in a gunfight every single week, and he is MacGyvering this bitch 1 week away, another way. He is figuring out a way to win, and it is amazing to me. And then to watch players improve, all of a sudden now, Perk, you may not need a number one wide receiver or a number one tight end anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm not at that point yet. And I did write about Kasicki and Devontae last week, actually, a few days ago. I'm not at that point yet with them. And I'll tell you this. But look, let's all agree that what Flo has done has been impressive. And again, I would contend more impressive than any other head coach in the league, John Harbaugh included. Because, as you say, right, it's a butter knife and a gunfight. Looking ahead, Bigo, and I'm sure you've got thoughts on this too, I wonder how much Flo is kind of set in his ways, okay? I won't say he's hard-headed, but he wants things done his way. I wonder how a veteran team would expect that, especially a veteran team that has not won under Flo, right? I mean, you can say what you want about Belichick, but these guys have won under him, so they will accept his rules. Minka didn't accept it. Kiko Alonso didn't like it. And I do wonder, how a veteran team would react. I say it like this. I think Flo might have been able to take last year's team to the playoffs, and I might have told you this before, but I wonder how guys such as Cam Wake and Andre Brandt and these guys would have accepted his way, his discipline, his things. And granted, Brandt and Wake haven't won anything, but I do wonder if Flo, some of his ways, some of his rules would grate on a more veteran team, and I guess we'll find out maybe in a few years. But that's way down the line, right?
But wait a minute. But hold on a second.
Free agents, maybe.
Yeah, but wait a minute. You're. I think no disrespect, but I think you're looking at it the wrong way, my man. I don't think they're going to be adding a lot of free agents that are going to have to come in and shell shock with the culture. The guys that are here, Christian Wilkins, grew up with the rules. X is going to grow up with the rules. Jakeem is going to grow up with the rules. Preston Williams is going to grow up with the rules. So it's going to be second nature for them. So when anybody else comes in, they're going to have to conform because the entire locker room is already set in place because they're building this team through youth anyway. So all the young guys are going to grow up with these rules, and to them, it's going to be the norm. So remember, you're kind of used to covering the old Dolphins that have a shift of free agents come in every year that they signed off street free agency. Those days are done. They're not doing that anymore. They're not going to depend on free agency. So I don't think you'll have those kind of locker rooms anymore, those transient locker rooms. The Dolphin locker room in the last 20 years has resembled our town, transient. It's not going to be like that anymore. It's going to be mostly homegrown. So I don't think those issues will be there. It's kind of like the Heat. You come into the Heat, the culture's set because everybody else has grown up with that culture, and it is what it is. You either take it or get the hell out. I think that's how it's going to be.
Yeah, you could be very, very right about that, Bigo, because, the key players are going to be drafted players. That's the plan, and they will come up in the flow way. So, yeah, that might be a down the line concern that never materialized.
Right, and if they think it's a troubled guy, they won't bring him in anyway. If it's a guy that's not going to fit their culture, they're not going. That's the thing that, like, you know, you and I and everybody else, we were like freaking out. Like, well, wait a minute, dude, you're signing Dion Waiters and Whiteside. These are not your kind of guys, Riley. What are you doing? You know, so that's the key, is that don't allow those kind of people that don't fit your culture in your culture. That's the thing. And when you walk into that locker room, Perk, do you feel that the culture, that there is the semblance of a culture being created right now?
I feel, yeah, if by culture you mean guys buying in, then definitely yes. Yeah, these guys have bought in, and look, the winning helps. You know, I talked to Daniel Kilgore after the game, and he was saying, you know, that winning, that's so contagious, and it makes players hungry in it, and it makes you believe even more, and really, that's what's going on here. Is that, look, guys like Chico Alonso and Minka Fitzpatrick might have had their doubts early in the season, but the guys who stuck it out, and this gets back to you talking about culture, they're seeing that the things that Flores is preaching works, and so it's an amazing environment from that standpoint. That, you know, here are guys who nobody expected much of them. I don't know what they expected of themselves, quite honestly, but all of a sudden they've won 3 games, man. Again, 59-10, 43-0. You're thinking this could be one of the worst teams in NFL history.
Yeah, and think about this, Perk. After all this stuff that we were talking about and there's only 4 games left now, dude. You know, this rough season's almost over, and towards the end, we're feeling better and better about the direction of the franchise. You just mentioned about the first 2 weeks of the season where it was the lowest of low points. Here we are, week 13, and look how the attitude has completely changed, because now you've got 4 games left, and hell, you're feeling like you're going to win a couple more of these games. And that means you may have found yourself a coach.
Yeah, and again, I would like to see how deep this runs with fans, because I asked Chris Lamone after the game in the locker room at the game-clinching interception about the confidence level, and he was like, confidence is an understatement. You know, granted, he was still speaking after an emotional victory, you know, but the point is, and I've talked to him and a lot of the DBs about this, and I talked to him about it again after the game, that you guys have lost Minka and Rashad and Xavier and Bobby McCain, and how in the world are you not just getting torn up? And you know, they quite honestly, they say it's practice. We practice hard. We practice the right way, and I guess that does get back to Flores and Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator, and this coaching staff. You know, these guys are not Pro Bowl caliber, but they're somehow they won 3 of their last 5 games. You know, I mean, and we see the offensive line, we see the secondary, we see what they get out of this running game. Hey, Ryan Fitzpatrick is no great shape, but these somehow the confidence that this team has in each other and the teachings of Flo have turned them into a 3-win team. And look, that's what I predicted at the start of the year. At certain points, I was thinking, there's no way they get that 3rd victory. But, wow, here they are. And look, nobody would be surprised at this point if they won 4 games, would we?
No, not at all. Not at all, especially when I'm looking at how poor some of the teams are that are coming up and how poorly coached they are. Flo's definitely going to have a shot at beating some of these teams down the stretch. We're talking with Chris Perkins, by the way, from The Athletic here on the program. And Perk, the other thing that I love, okay, we all know that Parker is obviously healthy. He's had a problem staying, injury-free. That's been his biggest detriment. But the other thing that obviously has had to have fallen off the wayside during that time had to have been his confidence. Now we're watching a guy that's healthy, and when I watch him talk smack with the opponent, that's not a guy that's running his mouth. That's a guy that's playing with confidence, that believes in his body, and obviously now believes in his ability out there. I know that to talk to Parker, it's like pulling teeth, and he doesn't really open up to you guys or to anybody out there. But has he ever talked about what the watershed moment was, where that confidence turned? Because it's really a lot of fun to watch him play with that confidence.
Yeah, this is what I talked to him about last week, and I actually had the best conversation that I've ever had with Devontae in 5 years. He was laughing, he was smiling, just seemed upbeat, and him and Jakeem are close friends. I think those people know that. Jakeem is razzing him, and he's razzing Jakeem back, and all year, him and Jakeem have just been hanging out, having a good time, even while Jakeem is getting over the injury, and even now while Jakeem is on injured reserve. But it's, Devontae was telling me that this is all due to health. He said he's taking care of his body now, and look, we remember Adam Gates criticizing him about being unprofessional. We remember Devontae's agent after a game last year, I think maybe up in Buffalo, where he sends out that email saying that my client is healthy, he should be playing.
Yeah, that's right.
Adam Gates is incompetent and all this kind of stuff. Devontae has come a long way, right? He's been through a lot in his career, and I really like Devontae. It was good to see him smiling and laughing. And, in one part of the interview, I asked him about the expectations and how heavily that weighed on him. And I asked him, what the media and fans thought, and he was saying, look, it's not easy to go out there and play a 16-game schedule and stay healthy and operate at full strength even when you're not healthy. And he said, I would like to see a lot of fans do that. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about Devontae. Dudes do this all the time in the league, but I just think that he's matured. And I asked him, I said, look, your numbers, if your career numbers, if you had been a third-round pick instead of a first-round pick, do you think perception of you would be different? And he said, yeah. And he said it's the expectations of the first-round pick that really kind of skew things. But the big takeaway and the thing that he talked about most was he's healthy now. He's taking care of his body, and now he's producing the way he always knew that he could produce. So, take that for what it's worth, because guys do play injured all the time. That's what the league is built on. And for whatever reason, Devontae couldn't do that previously, but it appears that he's more professional now, and he's doing things the right way, and we're seeing the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so cool to watch him play with that kind of swag. You know what I mean? And that means he's feeling really good. All right, yesterday, Perk, it was underneath, it was over the top, it was stretching defenses. It was legit number one type wide receiver stuff that was going on yesterday with Devontae. I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah, and look, one of the big criticisms of Devontae, aside from the injuries and professionalism and taking care of your body, he doesn't fight for the ball, right? He doesn't fight for the ball. He's a 6'3" receiver who plays like he's 5'10". But he was muscling his way for those balls yesterday, wasn't he? Going up, high-pointing it, making run after catch, showing toughness, as you said, showing emotion, talking trash. And you can see the confidence, because really with Devontae, I mean, he made like maybe 3 of those plays yesterday. Really with Devontae, we would see like 3 of them over a 9-week stretch. And you would wonder, why can't he do that more consistently? I think yesterday was a career best in yardage, and he had the 2 touchdowns. But I think yesterday, as you talk about, that was the first time we consistently saw Devontae fighting for balls, high-pointing it, playing to his size and to his skill level for 4 quarters, and it was good to see. It was good to see.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch. The other guy is Mike Gesicki, dude. Another guy that looked awkward, didn't look physical, wasn't aggressive, all of those things. Now, looking athletic, looking aggressive, looking comfortable, looking confident. Again, Gesicki is the other guy that has busted through this season.
Yep, and Gesicki talks about, first of all, let me say this. Ryan Fitzpatrick is good friends with Gesicki. They hang out together off the field, and we asked Fitz last week about Gesicki, and he said, well, it's a tough position. Not a lot of guys figure it out after their first year about the intricacies of the job and all that kind of stuff. I don't know how much that has to do with it. I don't know how much Fitzpatrick has to do with the emergence of Parker and Gesicki. But we're seeing the athleticism out of Gesicki, aren't we? That we finally get to glimpse at a fairly consistent level. He was like Devontae in a way that you would see glimpses of it in practice. I remember being at practices and training camp last year, and Tannehill was throwing him all these fade passes in the end zone and in goal line situations and red zone situations. We never saw that in the game. We would see glimpses of Gesicki's seam route running abilities. We never saw that in a game. Now we're seeing some of that stuff in a game, and so I don't know whether it's Flores or the tight ends coach. I believe it's George Godsey, or Chad O'Shea or Ryan Fitzpatrick, or if it's Gesicki himself. I really don't know why he's emerged this year, but again, it's something that's good to see. I don't think we should discount the presence of Ryan Fitzpatrick for either of these guys, Devontae or Gesicki, but clearly most of the credit goes to the guys themselves.
Yeah, no, and the other thing is that when we watch what's going on with Fitz, here's where I was wrong, man. I wanted Rosen to stay in there to find out what he's all about, but we got to give Flo a lot of credit for going back to Fitz, because this has allowed him to actually address everybody else and assess where everybody else is. And clearly, Gesicki's development has been so important, because without Fitz, I don't know if we see this out of Gesicki.
I agree. Or Devontae, or this offense, and in the bigger picture, the belief in Flores and what he's preaching. I think that starting Fitzpatrick, going back to Fitzpatrick, and I don't know how much Chris Greer or Steve Ross, forced Flores to go to Rosen in that third game of the year at Dallas. We all thought it was going to be third game, right? We all thought it was going to be after the fourth game, after the bye, that they would go to Rosen. But anyway, it's one of Flores' top 5 coaching decisions this season, I think, because, again, that really does, having Fitzpatrick in charge of the team, it really sets a direction. It sets a tone. He's a guy who is going to dig it out and run for that, 11-yard touchdown or whatever. He's going to get up and yell, and he's going to get everybody fired up. There's just a belief in Fitzmagic. I mean, everybody knows that this guy is not a Hall of Fame quarterback, but everybody also knows when he's out there, you've got a chance to win. And when you do win, that, again, reinforces everything that Flores is teaching. And so I think it was very wise of Flores to point out, look, I know Steve Ross and Chris Greer want to see Josh Rosen out there, but, I still don't think that Flo had any faith in Josh Rosen at all. I'm not sure that Flores ever wanted to play Josh Rosen, but credit Flores for going back to Fitz, because that, the spinoff of Fitz being out there offensively, defensively, special teams, that's been huge this season. Huge.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. Chris Perkins, of course, from The Athletic, joining us as the Dolphins yesterday defeated the Eagles 37-31, improving to 3-9. They've won 3 of their last 5 games, obviously playing a lot better. When you look at some of the changes, and I was talking about this. We talk about those players improving. How about finding a role for Eric Rowe, a guy that's not consistent at corner, yet has been so effective at safety?
Yeah, that's huge. And look, Patrick Graham will go on and on about Eric Rowe. I asked him about him a couple of weeks ago, and really, quite honestly, the one thing that he talked about was unselfishness that Eric Rowe has shown in moving to safety, a position he hadn't played since his college days at Utah. And I thought for sure that Graham was drawing a comparison to Minka Fitzpatrick. He never said Minka's name. He never hinted at that. But that was kind of what I picked up and that he was talking about. And yeah, Rowe is one of those guys, Big O, that you look at this coaching staff and a lot of the decisions that they have made. Look, I'm still not sure that they made the right decision in putting Bobby McCain at safety instead of at nickel and putting Minka at kind of the strong safety instead of free safety or nickel, whatever. But whatever. This coaching staff is not perfect, and I might be wrong. They might have made the right move there. They certainly know more football than I do. But the Eric Rowe move, the Ryan Fitzpatrick move, the Jesse Davis move, back to right tackle, Raekwon McMillan playing kind of an outside linebacker defensive end. We point to a lot of moves that this coaching staff has made. And they quite often made the right move, right? Mark Walton at running back, even though he proved to be a knucklehead, he was the right guy ahead of Kenyon Drake and Kalen Balaj, wasn't he? We saw what the offense was doing with Mark Walton in there. So, yeah, Rowe just goes along with a lot of these coaching decisions. As a matter of fact, Eric Rowe, he was the only starter in the secondary yesterday who started on opening day. And that was just 11 weeks ago. But you talk about the changes that this team has gone through and the personnel changes and the injuries and all of that. I mean, they have no run game. They can't stop the run. They have no pass rush. It's a patchwork secondary, and they've got 3 games to pick up. It's really an amazing bottom of the NFL story this season.
And Perk, one of the things that I've kind of talked about throughout the season is, and why they've done some of the things that you talked about, is it seems like in their scheme, the safety has to have really good cover skills. And so they felt that the guys they inherited sucked, which is true. Rashad is not a good cover guy. TJ McDonald's terrible. And so they kept moving their corners, Minka, Bobby, and now Eric, to safety because it requires that in this system. So next year, I would imagine that in the draft, when they do draft safeties, there'll be guys that have really good cover skills or corners that they're going to move over or make them safeties or something along those lines. They're going to convert them. That's what I think that probably Minka didn't understand or wanted to understand, that, hey, we need to get through this season. But in our scheme, our safeties have to have great cover skills. What do you think about that?
No, I think you're right, and Bobby McCain very seldom let anything get behind him, and that wasn't what we saw the previous year, as you say, with Rashad and TJ back there deep at times. So, yeah, from that standpoint, they definitely made the right decision, and really in the bigger picture, I think that as this season goes on, you're earning more trust, and you're seeing how Flores and Patrick Graham and offensive coordinator Chad O'Shea see this team developing. You look at the defensive changes. They're bringing in 5 people sometimes. It's almost always 3 people. And the point is, these guys are not total caliber players. They are guys that this coaching staff says they can do this specific role in this specific situation. And that goes to offense also, where you might see Shaq Calhoun, the right guard, inactive for 1 week and active for another week. You might see Ryan Lewis, the cornerback, starting 1 week and inactive the other week. The coaching staff goes very specifically by matchup and by skill set. And if there's a receiver or a scheme that they think they can take advantage of, they can kind of wring that talent out of that specific player. You might only play 12 snaps a game, but it's a very specific use and a very specific situation that the coaching staff has identified. And again, these 3 victories, they kind of reinforce that knowledge among players, fans, and media. Okay, I see what this coaching staff is getting at. So in the future, they're earning some trust, right? There's that if they draft or sign somebody and I'm going, well, why? You can kind of think back, and they've got very specific uses, and look, you got 3 wins out of nothing. These guys might know what they're talking about a little bit. Again, I'm not crowning them, but I've got more faith in them than I did at the start of the year.
And listen, you got to love Coach Flores' guts, too, the way he coaches, because I'll give you an example. I wasn't a fan of the onside kick to start the third quarter. I thought you were already playing with them. You were hanging with them. You didn't have to do that, and it didn't work out. But I love the fact that he's willing to take chances. If you're not willing to do that at the start of the third quarter, then you're not going to be willing to do that funky touchdown inside the 5 on special teams. And to me, that is great coaching and a great way of selling to your team. Hey, look, what we're telling you works. And this is how he keeps winning that locker room over, by taking some chances, believing in his guys, by taking those chances. And when you do succeed, like you did yesterday, that becomes monstrous in the locker room.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, Big O. Quite honestly, I always try very hard to judge the play and not the outcome. All right, and having said that, boy, I thought that fake field goal was an idiotic decision, Big O. You have a punter throwing to a kicker? Are you freaking kidding me? But it worked out. It worked out. I didn't mind the onside kick to start the second half. That one didn't work out. But I don't know. I mean, you tell me, Big O, that if it doesn't work out, are you still saying that's a great decision? I just think it's really crazy to have a punter throwing to a kicker. But what did you think about that, the actual play call?
Well, I thought it was genius because, the play call looked weird. I had no idea what the hell they were doing. I was wondering where they were going with this whole thing. I was just as baffled as you. But again, if you have practiced this over and over again, behind the scenes, and you know exactly how they're going to react, because the way they reacted is the way almost any team would react to such an odd formation, then kudos to you for, one, coming up with the play, knowing their reactions to it so you can actually execute it. That's where you got to say, okay, this is one hell of a play on their part, because they knew exactly what the outcome would be. And that, my friend, is impressive.
Well, I'll tell you this. I never know the outcome when you have a punter throwing to a kicker, and I personally would never do it.
I got you. I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah, but so that's why I say I try very hard not to judge the outcome. I judge the play call. I still don't agree with it, but I look like an idiot, don't I?
No, but
it results in a touchdown. But I try to be true to that rule.
No, but Perk, you're 1,000% right in your own way of thinking about this, because it's so odd, it's so weird, you would never expect it to happen. But you and I aren't in practice, and we're not watching them constantly execute it. So if they know how to execute it, then as a coach, you start feeling good about calling it. And that's why they called it, because they were confident that they would execute it. You and I would not feel confident, because you're like, dude, it's the punter and the kicker. Get the hell out of here. I'm not doing that. And so that's why you and I and fans are at a disadvantage, because we're not watching them execute it in practice, and then you can feel confident about it.
Well, I will tell you, it's funny that you mentioned that, Big O, because I would say like the last 5 weeks, they usually don't do a whole lot of trick plays in front of us in practice. You just to watch like the first 15 or 20 minutes of practice. But the last 2 weeks they have been, we've seen them do that. We've seen them run through a myriad of fake punt, fake field goal options, and most of them I'm looking at going, there's no way. They will never, ever run that in a game, but it's good that they drill it, right? It's good that it's in their back pocket. I can't say that I specifically recall seeing that one, But, I mean, look, hats off to Danny Crossman, the special teams coach, and Matt Hawk, and everybody. Daniel Kilgore is in there at center. It was definitely unexpected. And I think while the execution could go the way you want, for Matt Hawk to actually pitch that ball without it getting missed or a pick six, and for Sanders to catch it, hats off to those two guys, Big O. That's not easy. Even if the blocking goes the right way and the Eagles react the way you want, he's still got to execute that pitch without the ball getting tipped, and Sanders still has to catch it knowing he might take a big hit. So, yeah, my hat is off to Hawk and Sanders, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, that execution was absolutely phenomenal. Chris Perkins, of course, from The Athletic. Perk, what are you working on The Athletic so folks can check you out at The Athletic MIA?
You know, I yesterday and last week I talked to the Fox TV crew that did the game, Kenny Albert and Rondé Barber. I talked to the director, the associate director, the producer, a bunch of people there. So, I'm going to be bringing the story of how they tell the story of a game. And, there's some interesting tidbits in there about how they really start their scouting during the week where most of the key people of the crew will watch the previous week's game, the entire game of the game that they have this week. So, they watch the previous game for the Eagles. They watch the previous game for the Dolphins. They scour, the articles and everything like that. Another thing that I didn't know is that the production crew, the TV crew from the truck will meet with the game officials and the replay officials 90 minutes before each game. They'll go over rules things, but they'll also give the officials a map of where all the cameras were. That crew yesterday used 10 cameras, sometimes 17, but the officials will want to know, well, where will I get a reverse angle? Where will I get a low end zone shot? And even then, they'll want to know if there are gaps in the coverage, things that they can't get a good replay of. So, that's something that they go over. And one of the producers was telling me, he was like, I'm surprised more coaches don't ask for that. And I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. But yeah, there's a lot of little things that go into the production of the game. Those trucks, the production trucks, they have to drive. So the truck that was here yesterday is on its way to Green Bay. There's been times where they've had to go from the Meadowlands to Seattle back to the Meadowlands in that truck. So a lot of kind of behind the scenes things about that crew and what it takes to put on an NFL game.
All right, Perk, one more thing before I let you go. I was thinking that Josh Rosen plays at the end of the year, maybe the last 2-3 games, to kind of see what kind of progress he's made. But now, after yesterday, I'm wondering, will winning hurt that? If the team continues to play well, how do you pull Fitzpatrick and put in Rosen? That part I don't see now. If you're not winning, then fine. But when you've won 3 of 5 and you've got some games that are winnable coming up, that might be an issue now for the coach.
Yeah, to me, that issue should have been settled after Rosen. After Fitzpatrick came in the fourth quarter of that Washington game, and he leads them back, and they just miss out on that 2-point conversion, and they win the back-to-back games. I thought that was it. After they won at Indy, no matter what happened at Cleveland, I thought that was it, because at that point, it did seem like Flores' message was getting through, and the players could kind of see light at the end of the tunnel, and it's like that's why he asked us to do this, and that's why he tells us to do that. I think Josh Rosen would ruin a lot of that positive message, that positive vibe that Flo has worked so hard to earn this season. So, it's really it's nothing personal against Josh Rosen, but he's just not good enough. He's not. He doesn't do the things that Ryan Fitzpatrick does for that team, not just for the offense, but for that team. They just don't believe in him enough. And so, yeah, I think if it's up to Flo, and I would guess that at this point it mostly is, I would be absolutely shocked if he went back to Josh Rosen.
There you go. He is Chris Perkins. Follow him on Twitter at Chris Perk and catch his work at The Athletic MIA. Perk, as always, you are the best, my brother. Thank you for taking some time and talking Little Fins.
No, for you always, Big O. Thanks, man.
You're a stud. Thank you, sir. There you go, Chris Perkins.